Welcome to Enlightened Reflections. This is a chance for four of us who are spiritual authors to get together and just chat about what's on our minds today. And today we invite you to join us while we talk about the concepts of challenging times, how they show up, what we can learn from them, and some ways that you can cope. Today we have Judy Goodman, Lynn Van Praagh-Gratton, Ken Elliott, and Nancy Rynes in on the conversation. Internationally recognized, Judy Goodman may possibly be one of the most gifted teachers and motivational speakers today. She is an author, certified professional coach, certified relationship counselor, addiction recovery coach, motivational speaker. She works in grief support and is a hypnotherapist. Her audiobook called Journey, The Quest of the Soul, has been downloaded in 23 countries. She was born with the gift of seeing beyond the ordinary view of most people. Judy works and teaches beyond conventional wisdom. You may get additional information or schedule private appointments with her at judygoodman.com. Lynn Van Praagh-Gratton. Utilizing her unique gifts, Lynn Van Praagh-Gratton conveys messages of hope, healing, and love to those who have suffered the loss of a loved one. These messages bring closure, peace, and love to people all over the U.S. and Canada. Lynn comes from a long line of highly gifted mediums. Growing up in Bayside, New York, Lynn became a stay-at-home mom, then went on to become a flight service manager for a major airline. It wasn't until her husband's untimely death that she fully embraced her gifts. The universe helped to encourage Lynn further by magnifying those gifts. Upon retiring from the airline industry, Lynn began to focus on her abilities and to share them with others. Throughout her life, Lynn has experienced many difficulties, but through her faith and her gifts, she has been able to forge ahead and remain strong. I want to heal people by speaking to those who can no longer be heard by their loved ones left behind, is Lynn's mantra. Lynn is available for group and private readings, spiritual gatherings, seminars and events, gallery readings, and interviews and appearances on radio and TV. Lynn's book, Divine Dimes, Messages of Love and Healing from Beyond, is available on her website, lynnvanpraagh-gratton.com. Ken Elliott is an artist and writer living in Castle Rock, Colorado. He has experienced and collected astonishing stories for over 25 years. His book is at the cutting edge of manifesting with new and fundamental information that changes everything. His Amazon #1 best-selling book, Manifesting 123, and You Don't Need Number 3, is not an ordinary manifesting or law of attraction book. Find out more about it at manifesting123.com. Nancy Rynes, best-selling author of the book Awakenings from the Light, is a leading voice for developing our heart-centered intuition and living a life of peace-filled connection, love, and creativity. Featured on the Today Show, Nancy is known for her uplifting keynote speeches, workshops, and presentations on how to live a more purposeful, joyful, and spiritually inspired life. Find out more about her at nancyrynes.com. Today, we invite you to join us while we chat about challenging times, how they show up in our lives, what we can learn from them, and some ways that we can learn how to cope with them as well. So thanks for joining in. So let's get this conversation started off with your overall view of what life is like today. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges that we face? Let's start off with Judy. Judy, what do you think about that?
Thank you, Nancy. So good to be with everyone. And it's an interesting question. What do we think of life today? Our life today is probably a bit more challenging than it might be for someone hearing this at a later date. But we keep in mind that challenges remain challenges no matter what events are occurring around us. But as we record right now, we are experiencing challenges that are reminding us perhaps to go inward, to become deeper either in our spiritual growth, our religious growth, we are looking for answers. That's what I see today, Nancy, is that we are in the midst of crisis, and later there will be crises or challenges, and so we are in the midst of reevaluating what life is around us and what our perspective of life is. And Nancy, I always find that it's not so much the crisis as much as it is our response to the crisis. So as I see life today, I think the greater challenges are to work with our own response to whatever the challenge is, because what is true for us today might not be true for you guys listening to this at a later time. It could be an addiction, it could be a grief, it could be financial challenges. No matter what it is, to me, I believe that how we respond to the challenge is what's more important.
All right. So, Ken, what do you think about that? What do you see as some of our biggest challenges today?
In my view, we have challenges all the time. We'll have a small challenge. We may overblow it. We may have something really, really big in our lives and our families. And it's given people a lot of peace, whatever sort of crisis they're in, or how they're having to adapt with other people or family, or situations that are beyond themselves or even their borders. I hope will give some people some peace and direction.
So what it sounds like to me is that you try to look at each event maybe as a way to learn something or come away with information, at least. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very simple. I try to see things at the most basic level, almost as a child would see it, or a child that can reason. It's one or the other, and that's so arbitrary. But when things are confusing, the love or fear thing is extremely helpful.
Yeah. So, Lynn, what do you think about this? What do you think?
Okay, I'm taking all this in. What I basically get, and I really live my life so different from when I was a young child. I do feel that Earth definitely is a school of learning, and we're here to learn our lessons, of course. And I feel that when we're in crisis, it's almost like, we have like personal situations that are going on. I always feel that it's basically we need to look within, to go deep, like similar to what Judy had said, to look within and to go deep and to really start to find ourselves. Because when we're young, things look so different than they do when we're older. When we're in a crisis, like I remember in the 60s, like with all the missile crisis and everything, things look so different to us than when you're in a crisis when you're an adult. And I do feel at this point in time, as I get older, and I learn a lot, and we learn a lot from our challenges. And when we have our challenges, that makes us stronger. And it makes us stronger for the next time on how to look at that challenge. So I am getting what's happening with me now. I always feel like the best reaction is no reaction. You don't react on things.
We can no react, right?
Right, well, we can. But I definitely do feel that this is now a time that, in just this time in my life, with just things that are going on, that to look deeper inside, to find ourselves and to find our higher selves, and to really kind of see what makes us tick and what makes us stronger. Because we all go through challenges all our lives, and I definitely feel for each challenge I've had, my personal self, that each time I've had a challenge, you take the high road and it makes you stronger, and you learn from that and you move forward. And the challenge that I have today might be something different. Well, it will be something different that I'll have in 5 years from now. And I might look at it differently, but I always go back into my inner self, and I always just review and see, what did I learn from this lesson? What did I learn? And that's basically how I feel. Life today is 100% different than it was when I was a child. And things were, another thing too is we had the support and the security of our parents, of our grandparents when we were young. And we always looked up to them because they were our support. nothing can happen to us because they're going to protect us. As we get older, we don't have those parents, those grandparents in the physical, and we look back, and then we know that we're here and we're to our children what our parents were to us. So, it kind of is funny, and we say, well, wait a minute, I still need that security, but we do have the security. I feel we have the security of the universe also. So I definitely feel that, in difficult times, just go within yourself, go deep in, and just try to find out, help me handle this situation or what's going on in this point in time in life, this crisis that's going on. So that's basically, but I say look deep within yourself to see how it can help you face different things that you have in life each day to day. But school of learning, definitely a school of learning. I do believe that, and we get tested every day. Yeah. And that's how I live my life.
Lynn, may I hitchhike on something that you said about having respect for our elders, whomever they are, that are around us, grandparents, whatever, and I certainly subscribe to that. But just what would we say to someone hearing this today that maybe they didn't have that wonderful parent or grandparent? How do we go in when we may not have had a good leader, a good mentor, or a good teacher? Then where do we go with that? Now, I have some thoughts on that, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to, because I know you have so many other views and have so many other abilities to make contact that a lot of us cannot.
Thank you.
May not have had that.
And there are a lot.
Become stronger.
Right, there are a lot because I deal a lot with that with my different people and clients, that they didn't have that wonderful childhood, that they had crisis when they were young, and then that brings it into the crisis when they're older. They bring that with them, and like what you're saying, if they didn't have, I almost feel like you review it when you're young and you don't have those parents or those grandparents that weren't there. It kind of makes you you're a loner, in your own way. And I think what it is that's when you have to look into yourself and say, well, I'm strong and I can do this. So if I don't have some security there, I'll be there. I'll do it for myself. And I think that's what makes us really strong. But when we're little, we don't know that. But as we grow older, that's when you have the connections with people. And I find a lot of people that I talk to about this, that that's a lot of the people who help other people. Those who were in crisis and didn't have anybody to turn to when they were young now are helping other people now. So they're like their leaning pole, basically. I find during crises, which I'm sure all of you do, I find during crises, especially last couple of weeks, I am getting people, please, I need you, please, and sometimes they say, but wait, I need myself. But I don't want to get into that, but basically, we all want to be there for everybody, because there are those that don't have anybody, and maybe there are people that didn't have them when they were young and they still don't, but it does make them stronger. But a lot of people who didn't are those that are out there helping those that need it now.
Well, very good thoughts. And Ken, we're not trying to exclude you on this, but I just wanted to make one other point here, if I may, is that for those of us that don't have that understanding or that ability, ask for what it is you're seeking, and then believe that it will come. And whatever your spiritual belief, your religious belief, whatever your belief system is that comforts you, then go inward and say, I need someone to walk with me or be with me, and the things that we ask for will be brought to us, not necessarily in the manner in which we perceived it, but those helps will come. And it could be, the mailman that comes to your door, or it could be the policeman on the corner, or it could be a new friend that you're making. But whatever is lacking, and if you don't have those mentors or those guides, ask that it be brought to you, and then believe that it will.
Yeah. Friendship. Yes. pure friendship. Yeah.
I want to make mention here too. I am actually one of those people. I was raised in a family. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but let me just say it was an extremely dysfunctional family. And I was one of those kids that grew up feeling like I was all alone and didn't have anybody to rely on during challenging times. And trust me, there were a lot of challenging times. I learned a couple of things. Even, when I was a kid, I was actually pretty spiritual. So I really did talk to God a lot. And I'll just put it right out there. That's what I did when I was young. But I also relied a lot on family, friends, and neighbors. And I was super, super lucky that I learned early on I could look outside of my family for people who could be my mentors. And I was super lucky. I had, 3 people immediately, actually 4, who really became almost like surrogate parents, or at least role models for me in, physical.
That becomes your family of choice, not your family of origin.
Right. So, that's an important thing too. We have to kind of think about, well, there are other people perhaps in our lives that can act in that way and be that role model. It doesn't have to be, genetic family. And that was my saving grace, really, were those other people in my life.
I don't mean to interrupt also, but Nancy, I'm right there with you. I was right in the same place too. And I always remember I couldn't wait to leave the house to go to the neighbors, because I felt that it was a mother or father and everybody was sitting there at the dinner table, and that's what family was about. And I would always be so happy when they invited me for dinner, because that's where I stayed. That's where I felt that it was the real deal. I was out of the hell, but I was in the real deal now. So I get exactly what you're saying too. So friends and family. But I was a loner also, so I had really not too many friends as a child. So I understand that. So I'm right on your parallel for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and each of us that are in this conversation would be identified as others as probably having a gift, and it's not always a gift. Sometimes it's a burden and a tremendous responsibility, but do you think that because we come in that way that we tend to be loners and look at life differently anyway?
I do. I definitely do.
Ken, you were an only child. How did you grow up into all of that?
Well, I didn't have any untoward things going on with my parents or with my friends. I didn't know that there were people having trouble with their families until I was late in high school or in college, and I'd hear about these horrible arguments that parents were having, this and that. I mean, I just had a nice little idyllic childhood. I mean, I had ups and downs.
There's that other perspective, is that we're not only talking to just people that have been challenged, but we're also speaking to someone that grew up in a very good, well-rounded family to grow up and maybe find their challenges later in life. So, we're covering a very broad spectrum here.
Yeah. Well, what I've learned, listening to Lynn and the family that was, taking her in and this thing and that thing, another big picture view is that our fates are linked with other people. So Lynn was sort of taken in and helped by someone outside her family, like she had a second family. And if we do something awful to someone, that makes a ripple that goes forward. And earlier I was talking about love or fear, and I said that is not a solution. So I put that in there so it would hit with a thud, but I want to follow up on that. Love and fear gives you a direction. It gives you a point of reference where you can move one way or the other in your life, where you can take stock of where you are at that point. But I'll follow that up with, we don't have answers to things. We just don't know what the future is going to be. But we always have, at that moment we're in, we have choices. And every moment of every day, you have the choice to be who it is that you wish to be. And if you're confronted with something, at that point, you get to make that decision about yourself. It gets
Okay.
easier with time. Sometimes those choices get to be tough, but it gets a little easier with time sometimes.
When you get older.
We hear that deep emotion in Ken's voice, and we all understand that each one of us speaking today have had challenges of every sort, and it's like Ken says, you choose either fear or hate or fight or flight, or it's what you decide, and everything in life is about a choice. No matter what comes up, you're going to make a choice about it. They don't always have to be bad, but you will be making choices, and it's how you handle those choices and what you decide to do. And think about Nancy, and having had all the challenges that she did, she made choices, and look at where she's at today. Look at where each person is today because of the choices that they have made.
So I want to follow up, Judy, with a question for all of us. This wasn't really a planned question, but I think it's coming up. We're all talking about choices and making those, conscious choices. But what I noticed, at least for myself before my near-death experience especially, I don't think I was as conscious of the fact that I had the ability to make conscious choices. So how do people, if they're really in reactionary mode right now, meaning their decisions are really made without really thinking about it, if they're sort of unconscious choices, how can people shift into a more conscious mindset so that they can actually be a little bit more present with those decisions?
Well, how would you like? Go ahead, Judy.
Well, I'd love to just jump in. Sorry, I did jump right on top there. Sorry. I would like to jump right in and say this, and it won't make a lot of sense, but maybe if you could even begin to embrace the concept is that where you are today, as good or challenging as it might be, it is a choice that you made to be there, even in those challenging moments, because you are a special soul, you are an enlightened element, and you made a choice to go through the challenges that you did. And to say something about Nancy is that the choices that she made, I'm saying that she chose that life and to go through those things. It doesn't make sense. Yep. When we say it that way. Oh, you mean I would choose to be hurt or harmed or be in fear or whatever. The real bottom line, which we probably won't have time to discuss today, but maybe we'll do this again, is that, yes, you did choose to be there, but the eventuality of that is you chose to be there because you are stronger than you think you are. You are a brighter star than you know that you are. You're more enlightened than you believe you are. And everything that you learn in your challenge, you will no doubt turn around and become the teacher, mentor, or friend of someone who is in a similar situation. Nancy could not be the person she is today, doing what she's doing today, had she not gone through the very things that she did. Lynn would not be where she is today, had she not gone through the things that she did. And we'll talk about it in another way.
I just want to say bingo. If you have that big issue and you can't overcome it, there's a comfort in knowing that it's very likely that you will become the teacher of that thing.
No doubt.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And one of my oldest sayings is, you can't give people what you don't have, and you cannot take them where you have not been. Therefore, look at what Lynn does. Look at what Ken does. Look at what Nancy does. They give of themselves based on their entire journey up to today. Yeah. So whatever the challenges you're going through in your life, at the time that you hear this, you are learning, you are growing, and somewhere you're going to take that and plant that little seed, and something's going to grow. It may be in your children, it may be in your relationship, it may be in your work environment. You might even turn back and teach your parents. That does happen to some of us, is that we grow up being the black sheep of the family because we're a little different and we're going through our challenges. And then one day, many years later, they turn around and come back to us wondering how we made it through, and then we turn around and teach them something that comes from profound places within us that we don't always understand. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
I have actually a quick story about that. One of the things, I didn't write this in my book about my near-death experience. The book is Awakenings from the Light, in case anybody hasn't heard of it. But one of my spiritual guides when I was, dead, walking around in the afterlife, having this grand tour and, learning all this, relearning, I should say, all of this stuff to bring back. I was shown my life when I was a young kid. And I was, as I mentioned, in a sort of a, dysfunctional family. I won't go into a lot of details, but my father was, let's just say he was exceedingly bigoted about skin color and ethnic origin and all that stuff. And from the time I was a little kid, I was very in his face, actually, is what my older sister would say. She would tell me, look, you would get up on top of a chair and try to stare him in the face and tell him that, God doesn't want you to be so bigoted. It's not right. Everybody's the same. We're all, and I was saying the stuff as a kid that I'm saying now, like, we are all one. Dad, we're all the same. Why are you, feeling this hatred for another ethnic group?
So you were already a teacher.
And I didn't know it back then.
As a child, wow.
And so, here I am in my near-death experience, walking around in, this spiritual realm with my spiritual guide. And she tells me, one of the reasons that you came into this life was to do exactly that for your dad. And by the way, it was effective. So, and I didn't know that at the time that it was effective. When I was a little kid, I didn't know that it was actually helping him, but she told me, look, it did help. So we have those effects on people. We can come in and help our parents whether we realize we're doing it or not. And that's one example of it apparently helped him. I didn't realize it, but just me being me and saying the words that I felt needed to be said made me a black sheep back then, for sure. I'm sure my parents just looked at me like, where is this coming from? I was like 5 years old. But that was my truth, and that's what I knew was right. And so I think it's important for people to understand when they feel that those words want to come out, that truthful, loving stance. Yeah, it's good to say it now. Probably more gentle than I did. I wasn't very tactful as a 5-year-old, but there are ways that we can speak our truth without being offensive. But it's really important when you're feeling that position of love coming up and that truth coming out, to put it out there in some way that's gentle and helpful, because you never know who it's going to help. It could help yourself too.
Absolutely.
How often does something come up? We create a problem on our own. We create a crisis, or a crisis is brought to us, large or small, regardless of whose fault, so-called right or wrong. At that point, you have an opportunity to go forward in a more considerate, compassionate, and a helpful way. And there's this place in your life, as you were saying to your parent, that was a pivotal point. And we can make a situation worse, we can make a situation better, but we have to be aware of what is our position going to be. Do we want to be considerate and compassionate? It goes back to the golden rule. How would we like to be treated? You can fall back on that. Things get pretty simple. If we could just get some clarity on this and cut through all the complexity and the back and forth, and just find a way to have clarity in what it is you want in your life and how you like to be treated. You can't really control that. but you can be the good example. That's really all you have sometimes.
And
Right.
sometimes we may be asked to forgive because, as we've discussed, that maybe all of our upbringings were not the best in the world, and maybe there's reasons to need to forgive. And I would just say that to forgive is not to condone at any level, but forgiving, being able to forgive someone that has harmed you, is what will set you free to move on with your life. So condoning, is not even part of it. You're not saying that I agree with what you did to me. You're saying I forgive you because that's what will set me free, where I can move on. But be assured that whatever wrong has been done to you, if you've been hurt or harmed, and if you forgive, that person will carry that until they make that right with the God of their understanding or in their life as they walk their journey from their level of understanding. So you don't let them off the hook. You just release yourself.
That is so true.
I agree 100%, Judy. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. And it definitely, once you do that, it definitely sets you free. So that's definite.
That is one of the most powerful points I think that's been presented about forgiveness. But we shouldn't forgive ourselves, don't you think? Just a little joke. Just a little joke.
That's a good point. You're the good person.
Yeah, if you want to get trapped, don't forgive yourself.
Right.
There you go.
If you want to dig a hole and stay in it forever and ever, don't
Keep
forgive
yourself locked down in the gerbil's wheel, just spinning and spinning.
Yeah.
I like
Forgive
that. I
yourself,
like that.
please. Yeah.
Look deep inside. Look deep inside.
Yeah. If you
But
can forgive
I find that forgiving yourself is very often the most challenging thing for people to face. It seems like it's easier to let someone else off the hook when you say, okay, it doesn't condone anything, and you can do that and move on, but forgiving ourselves is perhaps one of the most challenging things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest, yes.
Two things I hear the most is that I can't forgive myself and I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
Those are the two big stumbling blocks. But I'll put it on with this.
Agree with that.
If you're taking care of yourself, if you really want to do, let's say it's what you're here to do, which is often about service and helping other people, if you're really going to do that, then you need to, I don't want to sound like I'm lecturing, I would offer that it's good to forgive yourself as well as forgive others. Take care of yourself first, and then you're in a better position to take care of others.
Right. How can you take care of others? Yeah, how can you take care of others when you can't even forgive yourself? Then you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. You have to take care of yourself first and clean out all the cobwebs, and then once you do that, then you'll be able to help people immensely.
Yeah,
I've learned that.
Yeah, and where does our fulfillment in life come from? From the car or a successful job, this and that. It more often comes from helping other people. That's how we're truly fulfilled. Or family, which is helping others.
Yes.
Yes.
I find that whatever is lacking in our own life, if we give it away, it multiplies and comes back. So if we are not fulfilled, if we perhaps think that we don't have friends or that we're facing tremendous challenges today, go find someone and help someone that has similar situations. What happens is that you get nurtured in return sevenfold. So whatever's lacking, give it away. It will return.
Yes. I've experienced that a lot, Judy. I've experienced that a lot where you give, so sometimes you're thinking of something else, should I really do? Oh, okay. And it'll come back tenfold, and it doesn't have to come back in the financial part of it. It can come back and, wow, you really helped me today. You made me feel good. That's the best feeling you can ever have. You can't put a dollar sign on that, for sure. If you know that you've helped somebody, put them at peace. That's very important. So definitely, I agree 100%.
Makes it easier to go to bed and go to sleep at night.
Tightly. Sleep tight.
I'm also going to pop in and say, let me tell you, it makes your life review a lot easier too.
Yeah, bingo.
The life review. Oh, Nancy. Yeah.
I talk a lot about that because I know Judy always used to say I was going to be a teacher, and I always say, it's that karma and that life review. Take care of it while you're on the earth plane, because once you go to the other side, it's going to be a little more tougher. So try to take care of it now while you're here in the physical. So yeah.
I don't want to freak anybody out, but in case people don't know what a life review is, when a lot of us come back from a near-death experience or a death like mine, it wasn't near death, I was dead, a death experience. We often report having gone through with our spiritual team what we call a life review, and that's where, we review some of the major aspects of our lives, sometimes down to the minutia, but things that may not seem to be major in our life come up, and we review those as a learning tool. Like, here's the situation, and here's what you did, and here's how this person felt in response to what you did. And by the way, you get to feel what that other person felt in response to what you did.
That is correct.
I tell that to a lot of people. Yes, when I do sessions. Yes,
you get that 360 view, like truly.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, that totally wakes you up. Like, that's your consciousness right there coming in. Like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I had that kind of people. So it isn't meant to be like judgmental. I just want to, like, if anybody's listening to this and they're a little freaked out about the life review, it's not a way to be.
Sorry about that. My puppy dog is on guard.
It's a way really for you as a soul being, as a spiritual being, to learn from what you experienced in this life. It's really a learning tool, sort of like a class review or something if you're in a physical classroom here on Earth. That's really all it's about. But it's powerful, and it really changed. That was the one thing I think that immediately changed me overnight, was getting that perspective on really viscerally how I interacted with the world was important, because I could feel it in everybody that I interacted with. I could feel their feelings, because we are all one. We're all connected to each other on an energy, spiritual level, and there's no separation there.
What I'm hearing you say, Nancy and Lynn and Ken, is that no matter what time in space or life we are, or where we are, whatever challenges are coming, is that we're going to be responsible for what we're saying and what we're doing and how we're facing things. And if we're hurting people in the process, or maybe even lifting people up, that we're always going to be accountable for our own behavior, no matter what the challenge.
Judy, and I tell that to people every session I have, and you got to see the looks on their faces when I say, "Oh, your ex-husband? Well, forget about it." Like, in other words, they look at me like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, anything that you've done or he's done or anything else." I said, "You got to be aware of it." A lot of people don't get that and don't know that. And that's why when every session I have, I try to explain that to them. So maybe from this day forward, they'll live their life in a whole different perspective, and especially the young people. When I have younger people and they go, "Oh my God, well, maybe they can start out now, or maybe they can, live their physical life in a better place, in a better way. And maybe it'll help from when they have their life review." So I talk about that all the time.
What's so interesting to me is that the things that we're talking about today, right now in this moment, if this recording, if this is alive and someone hears it 50 years, 100 years from today, these truths are not going to change.
Right. Exactly.
Nothing will really be any different, except your particular circumstances. What makes you happy, what makes you sad might be a little different, but the bottom line, the truth of all of this is not going to change at all. So whatever you're hearing today, from our perspective and what we're dealing with, is still going to be applicable to whatever you're going through at any point in time in the future.
I agree. If you hear this and you're in your flying car or in the Mars colony,
right?
Wherever you are in the future when you hear this thing, if ever there was a time to create the change you desire in your life, it's right now. You
Whatever
don't have
that moment is.
Yeah, you don't have to be standing in a crisis. We often change on bad news, that sort of thing, but you can make that decision now. And what seems like bad news right now might be just the thing to move us from one position to a more favorable one. So many times we'll lose the job we really don't like. When we get laid off, we get fired because we won't let it go for security reasons. It could be the relationship. It could be this thing. It could be that thing. And so-called bad news will take us out of one position to a more favorable one.
Well, what about that thing, though? You lose the job you didn't like anyway, right?
Right.
And you're upset and you're thinking about it and you say, wait a minute, I prayed for a better job. I asked or I manifested or I created a different job. So sometimes what seems like a bad bit of news is an answer to a prayer that you forgot that you had made.
Mm-hmm.
Right. 100%.
And when those types of things happen for me, and they obviously have happened in my life, today, and I didn't do this in the past, but today I just take some time to pause and reflect. Just think about, okay, so did I really ask for this in some way? Or, what is there in this that I can pull out of this that's a gift? I may not have asked for it verbally, but maybe I asked for it with my heart. And especially for something like a job, maybe I really hated that job, or the boss and I didn't get along very well. So this is, you know what? I could make an opportunity out of this. But take some time really to pause and reflect before going into a reactionary phase. That you have time to just chill out and, think about it, write down jot some things down or journal, and go into that, whatever that was that happened, and see if there's a pearl that you can pull out of that. Is there something beautiful here for me? Is there something, is this an opportunity for me to take my life in the direction I've always wanted to go?
Right. What is an apocalypse? We use that as a really big word. We have a lot of personal apocalypse. Sometimes that really terrible thing is, as you said, the thing that we have been asking for. In Greek, the word apocalypse means revelation or an uncovering. Now, if there's a death, that's just tough. That is your own personal apocalypse. But to lose a job or to have this thing happen or be evicted, you can't pay the rent, this kind of thing, those often are the thing that move you from one position to another. It's not what it seems. It's an uncovering. And it is that opportunity to ask, to pray, to manifest, and do those ahead of time, please. But certainly they can be Johnny on the spot to get you to a better position.
Yeah.
Well, another kind of hitchhiking on that a little bit, Ken, is every bad thing that happens to us is not necessarily, I'm going to step out here and say this, it's not necessarily written in the stars. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, and in the climate that we are in as this is being recorded, there are going to be things that are going to happen that are not necessarily part of their life experience. It wasn't really planned, and yet it was. But every bad thing is not a challenge or a life-altering situation, and sometimes it's just a bad thing that happened to a good person. And in other words, the relationship you broke up in, maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe it was to free you up for the thing that is better coming, or the job that you lost during the crisis is not necessarily a bad thing in the long run. It's not easy to see it in the moment, but maybe it's what frees you up, and you're sitting at home and you're saying, wow, I could go back to school now because I can do everything online. So maybe it turns out to be a catalyst for something that you would have not even dreamed of being possible. So don't look at every bad thing as the final. Just see it as an opportunity or a chance to grow, to but always remember to be in gratitude for all the things that are around you, even the things that are as simple as a good clean bed to sleep in at night, or a meal to eat. Maybe it's not the meal that you want, but a meal to eat, or a roof over your head, or friends, or the opportunity to hear 4 people coming together today with diverse upbringings and backgrounds and thoughts and everything. Be grateful for the opportunity to hear it. And if this doesn't apply to you, that's okay. Just take in what fits, and whatever doesn't, pack it away, and maybe it'll come out later on or not. It doesn't matter. But stay in gratitude for things that are in your life, even the ability to breathe and to be healthy.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to ask you, Judy, you see energies. You don't have to go into a state. You simply see it. And you offered a piece of advice that I never forgot and actually put it into my book. And it was the 7 grateful things. Would you go through that? I like what you said before your feet hit the ground in the morning. And then tell us what you see that gratitude does, please.
Well, just to be very brief, I like to teach people that I work with to, in the morning when you wake up before your feet hit the floor, think of 7 things that you're grateful for. And it may be that you're in a warm bed. I've worked with people that say, I don't have anything to be grateful for. Well, okay, just begin with the most minuscule things. But when you are grateful, that energy rises up out of your heart, your mind, body, spirit. That energy, that gratitude rises up to the heavens and to the God of your understanding, or to whatever being it is that is important to you. But that creates gratitude and allows it to grow. In fact, it will enhance and enlarge what is coming into your life, because when you become grateful, you are expanding the space that other good things can come in. The universe will hear you and say, they are grateful, they are thankful, then let us put other things upon them. But I like to begin the day before your feet hit the floor with 7 things of gratitude. And then at the end of the day, before you go to bed, 7 things of gratitude. And of course, when you're driving around, flying around, whatever you're doing, think of something that you're grateful for. And just a simple statement, I am so thankful that I got a raise today, or I am so thankful that the new person in my life is working their way in my direction, or I am so thankful and so grateful for the new job that is finding its way into my present. So it's being grateful for what you have, but it's also the process of creating and manifesting the things that you're desiring.
And you can do that for things in the past.
Pardon me?
Grateful for things in the past, correct?
Absolutely. Always be grateful for the things that are in the past, because those are the stepping stones on which you're walking in your life right now. Whatever things have come to you in the past, you wouldn't be where you are today. None of us would be here talking to you today if we had not been walking on those pebbles that we have created on our own journey. We have had to do the same things that you're doing, each one of us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Judy. Thank you.
I want to piggyback on that, Judy, on the gratitude coming from your heart, and really, it's an expansion of love, really. I just want to kind of, you said that gratitude really echoes into the heavens, or into, the universe. It really does, and I want to give people a perspective on that. So during my NDE, now I want everybody to realize I didn't believe in any of this stuff when I had my NDE. I had become an atheist in my late teens, and was that way up until my near-death experience a few years ago. But when I died, I heard, when I was in the spiritual realm, I heard this incredible, I called it music. I'm getting chills right now talking about it. I didn't know what else to call it. It was it sounded like what medieval monks and nuns would describe as the voice of angels, but it was this chorus of amazing voice, almost like voices singing together. And I asked my guide, "What is that? It's so beautiful. What is that?" And she said, "It's I'm going to cry now because it's just so powerful. It's the sound you're hearing. What you're hearing is love coming from people in gratitude and love, everywhere in the universe, not just on this planet, but it's that love, that gratitude that we feel. When we feel gratitude here, we're sending out these energy waves of love. And when you're in the spiritual realm, after you finally leave your body, you can hear that, and it is the most incredible, beautiful music that I can't describe it here. It's just indescribable, but it's tangible. I want people to know that what Judy talked about as that energy of gratitude, of love, is a tangible thing that really is part of the fabric of this universe. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much for that. That is
Thank you for sharing that, Nancy.
inspiring.
And sometimes when I go out of body, and because the work I do requires that I be there, sometimes I go out and I watch exactly what Nancy is talking about, is that energy that is coming up. It is a vibration, and it has a tone and a sound. There are 7 sacred tones, and it will carry those sacred tones. And it looks like ribbons of light coming up. It's like a upside-down rainbow coming up, and you hear the sound of it. Nancy's exactly right. You hear the vibration and the tone. So your gratitude, not only is that benefiting you, but it is benefiting all other things, all elements. We all are one. And, whatever your life is today, you're not alone, and we are all part of whatever is occurring. We're not individuals, even though it feels that way sometimes, but it is a beautiful thing to be grateful. And those that are up above, that Lynn sees frequently, that are watching and hearing, they will see that. They get to see the color, and they get to see the vibration of that. And it is a joy that they return immensely back to us.
Yes.
Yeah. And one other thing, too, when people are, I don't want to get morbid about this, but as you're preparing to leave this physical life, as people prepare to leave this physical life, those of us who have one of the jobs that I do when I'm not in body is to help souls transition from physical to spiritual. And one of the things that we and I'm not the only one that does this, obviously, but we who do this, we love to surround that soul who's leaving the body and going into spirit. We love to bring that sound of that heavenly music, or that divine music, that divine love, to that person as they're leaving the body, because it's so comforting. So it will be there for you as you're preparing to leave this world. And I assisted one of my friends, who was like a brother to me, passed away a few years ago, and I was honored to have been with him in his last couple of months of life. And the evening that he passed away, I could hear the music, and I wasn't the one who was helping him like spiritually leave. I just was present with him, and I could hear it, and it was just so comforting for me, and I think it was comforting for him too. So it's there. We can tap into it. Some of us can even hear it while we're still here in physical, but it's there for you. Yeah. All right. So I want to take a step back, and we don't have a lot more time, but I want us to kind of end this discussion, and I think we have a lot of room to have another one of these discussions if we all want to do it again. But let's just take a little bit of a step back here. With all that we've been talking about today, all of the things that tend to happen in a human life, is there in your opinion, is there a bigger spiritual picture that we need to keep in mind with life in general, with what's going on when we're in a physical life?
I like that question. I'll just jump right in. Is there a bigger picture? I believe there always is a bigger picture. For us today, it will still be true for you tomorrow. The bigger picture to me is understanding who we are, what we are about, why we're here, developing our inner religious belief or our spiritual belief, whatever your belief system is. That's really not the question. It's whatever you believe in is understanding it. The bigger picture is that we are growing, and there will be some people that will choose not to grow, and that's unfortunate, but something will yank them by the neck later, and they'll jump back in, because whatever it is that you're facing is your choice. It's a choice you made a long time ago, and there's no time limit. You can grow and understand these things and develop into your own higher self, your own higher level of spirituality. You do that at your own pace, and, nothing's cast in stone. You don't have to do it in 3 days. You take all the time that you need, but the good news and the bad news is that whatever those things are, if you don't find the answers to that today, you'll have an opportunity to do it later. But to me, the bigger picture is how we are growing and how we are reaching into our own higher being, but letting that come out of us and extending that to all of the things that are around us with respect to the earth, to animals and plants that feed and nourish us, all the things. We take so much for granted. It saddens me a great deal at how comfortable we get to the point that we forget to be grateful for the very existence that we have and the earth that supports us. So I believe we're growing into greater understanding of that and perhaps becoming more spiritual to the point that we can respect and honor ourselves and all other things.
I like.
Well, and
go ahead, Lynn.
well, I'm sorry, Ken. No, I was just going to say, and it is, and I think in what's going on in the here and now, I feel that it's opening our eyes and making us really see that what's really important. What's really important around us, the surroundings, and more appreciative, and family, and just have, like you said, have gratitude for what you do have, and maybe it's going to open your eyes and see, the food on your table. Just know that, it's not just handed there. It's you have to have gratitude, and I like that with opening your eyes, because I find a lot more people, even in all the years that I've been, doing service, I find that a lot more people are coming forth and understanding it more. A lot of the males are stepping forward. So hopefully we're opening their eyes, and they'll just understand it more. And maybe things that happen in this world will make this world a better place, because there'll be definitely a shift and change in everything that we're doing as the days go on from here to eternity, basically. But definitely, I agree 100%, Judy. Thank you for all that. That was very inspiring. Thank you.
For me, that brings to mind a couple of nice quotes, and they work on a personal level, and they work on a national or global level. And one of them is that you can judge a society. You can also say you can judge yourself. You can judge a society on how they treat the weakest among them, how we treat other people, those that are so-called smaller. That is a good judge of society or an individual. And another one, I liked, Stephen Greer uses this in his lectures often. It's the Chinese proverb, if we don't stop what we're doing, we're going to end up where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And that applies to us personally as well as globally. Is this...
May I also just interject, is that no matter what is happening in your life when you hear this, no matter what your circumstances, no matter what your challenges are, be the best that you can be, whatever that looks like. Doesn't matter. Be the best that you can be. Be the person that you were set out to be. I'll never forget the day that my own father looked at me and said, Judy, I never really knew who you were, did I? And I said, no, Daddy, you didn't. And that was his day of seeing me, but I just continued, even as a child, as all of us have. Like Nancy, in her father's face, she was being the best that she could be, all that she knew how to do. So no matter what your challenge is, just be the best that you can be, and you'll find that later as you grow up, you'll be even better at what you're doing. And you'll teach other people to be equally the best that they can be.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a beautiful point, actually. And that's being the best that we can be in each moment is really what we can do. And that does evolve over time. And it's important to know that in your heart, yes, I am doing the best that I can. And it's okay that I can't do more. I have some of my students start off with me, and they're all upset that they can't save the world by themselves in this moment. And I keep saying, look, just be the best that you can be right now. Do your best. Really, just do your best, because your best is good enough right now.
Yeah.
You don't have to save the world on your own. And in fact, you can't save the world on your own. That's why we're here together. Together, we do whatever it is that we all think needs to be done. But you doing your best counts, because that sends out, truly, it sends out energetic ripples of good things, love, peace, whatever it is. It sends out an energy around you that really lifts other people up.
Mm-hmm.
And so being your best, doing your best is important, and not, don't just avoid going into the place of, well, I wish I could do more. No, you are doing it. You're doing your best, and that's okay. That's enough. You're enough the way you are right now.
And it sounds like we're coming from a place that we're, oh my gosh, what a group here. We're so perfected and advanced, and yeah, isn't that funny?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, please.
No.
Yeah, and I would offer that this world is not, it may not be a place where you can achieve perfection.
No.
The world may not be allowed, it's not designed to be a utopia, but it is a great school, and the greatest lessons are learned through pain. I could offer
100%.
Yeah, I would offer the earth is a school of pain. It's also a school of great joy and opportunity. Yeah, but on that note, we can do the best we can, but we will never hit perfection ourselves. But you try, you achieve, be the good example, do the best you can day by day, and forgive yourself when you don't hit the mark. It's okay. It's okay.
And in fact, perfection isn't expected. It isn't. It's when, those in the spiritual realm understand how tough it is here, because most of them have been here. They know how tough it is. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's understood. We beat ourselves up more than the divine consciousness ever will. And that's not the point of here. The point of here is just what Judy said, do your best, and it's okay. It's okay to just not be perfect. None of us are.
It's very freeing when you understand that you don't have to be perfect. Do the best you can.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. It frees you to continue. And guess what? It's the mistakes that teach you and allow you to grow. It's those tough times that give you yet another opportunity to learn and grow. If it were perfect all the time, you would probably be a very boring person. And you've had those ups and downs, that you have feelings and emotions, and your heart has grown. You don't know happiness without knowing sadness. You don't know one thing without the other. So don't worry about being perfect. Just keep on going and be the best you can be.
I love that.
That's great. That's perfect.
Well, that's a perfect way to end today's discussion, too.
Yes. Wow.
Any last thoughts before we wrap it up for today and say goodbye to our listeners? All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here with me today and having this absolutely amazing discussion. We had some originally, folks, we had questions drawn up, and I have to say I'm glad that this discussion went off on its own and had a life of its own, because I think it was so dynamic and amazing for me to be able to converse with all of you. So thank you. You've been all three of you have been a part of my journey the last 6.5 years as I've come into all of this stuff after my near-death experience. So I thank you for all of that and just being here with me today.